Hey readers, now we're going to start the story. In your reader's notebook, you want to make a chart with just like I have on our screen. I just can't toggle between Hovercam notebook and the online notebook. So I've got it online on my screen online, but if you want to, you can put it in your notebook. You're going to need 3 columns, one for vocabulary, one for setting, and one for gods and goddesses. So as we read, if you want to fill in your chart while we read, you can do that. If you need to pause the video to catch up or to have some time to write, feel free to pause and play as needed. All right, let's get started with our text. Gods and goddesses of Olympus. Long, long ago, in ancient Greece, some people began telling stories to explain the mysteries of life. Over much time, the stories, or myths, grew rich and imaginative. The storytellers wove in their customs, beliefs, and theories about life, death, and the wonders of nature. The myths were about gods and goddesses, fearful monsters, brave heroes, and mysterious beauties. People believed the myths were true. They worshiped the gods, who they believed helped them and guided them. They built temples to honor them. According to the mythology of gods and goddesses, according to the mythology, the gods and goddesses looked and acted like humans. They married each other, they laughed, they loved, they quarreled, and they fought with each other. But they were immortal. They lived forever because a fluid called ichor, not blood, flowed through their veins. The mightiest of the gods and goddesses lived in a golden palace on Olympus, a mountain so high the top was hidden by clouds. They feasted on ambrosia and nectar, the food and the drink of the gods. And whenever they wished, they could change shape and speed down to earth to mingle with the mortals. The awesome Olympians earned their thrones on Olympus. They fought a fierce battle and won. All right, so I'm so excited to learn about all the Olympians. Mount Olympus seems like an important place to note, so I'm going to add this to the places column on our chart. Okay. Back to the story. In the beginning, Gaia, the earth, grew out of a dark space named Chaos. Gaia gave birth to Uranus, the sky. It rained down on young Gaia, plants, animals, and rivers appeared. Gaia became Mother Earth, mother of all living things, and mother of the first gods. What a cool beginning. Let's think about what we should add to our chart. I think we'll put Gaia over here. I'm always in the way. So far, we know that Gaia is Mother Earth, and she gave birth to Uranus, the sky. All right, back to the story. Gaia and Uranus had many children. Their firstborn were the 12 giant Titans, 6 girls and 6 boys. Later, more children were born. 3 were mighty Cyclopses, strong, one-eyed giants. There were the Hecatoncheires monsters, each with 100 arms and 50 heads. Sometimes when we read cultural literature and we come to those names that we don't know, We just have to kind of go through with a phonetic pronunciation. I am probably not saying that correctly. And they didn't give me a pronunciation, so we're just going to go with the Heka monsters with the 100 arms and the 50 eyes, 50 heads. Uranus hated the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires because they were ugly. He threw them in Tartarus, the deepest pit in the underworld. Gaia was furious. She urged the Titans to overthrow their father and rescue their brothers. And only the youngest, Cronus, was brave enough. So on this page, we have a lot more of our gods and goddesses. So let's go to our chart. We have the Titans. Cronus, he's the youngest. Up when you're looking. And Cyclops. And the heck, I'm looking at my chart. Hectoncheires. A little description with it to go with it. Because I've spelled that wrong. And look at that. Even Google knows how to spell that for me. Okay. On the setting, I heard that Tartarus was like the underworld. And on that first page, they had the ambrosia and nectar. That was like the food and drink of the gods, and the ichor that goes through their veins instead of blood. Did I spell that right? Yep. All right. Back to the story. He attacked Uranus with a sickle and banished him from the earth. Cronus replaced his father as lord of the universe, but he was cruel, and he didn't free his brothers from Tartarus. Cronus married his sister Rhea, and they had many children. But Cronus was afraid that one of them might try to overthrow him just as he had overthrown his father. So as each child was born, he swallowed them. Rhea was horrified. When the youngest was born, she tricked Cronus. She hid baby Zeus in a distant cave so Cronus would not find him. Rhea then gave Cronus a stone wrapped in a blanket. He swallowed that instead, blanket and all. Hidden away, Zeus was raised by gentle woodland nymphs and a nymph goat named Amalthea, who fed him honeyed milk. And when the baby cried, the Curetes, Zeus's guards, clashed their weapons to hide the sound. So let's go back to our chart. So on this part, we have Zeus. Well, first, I guess we put Rhea, his mother. And then Zeus. If you know anything, you know that Zeus is eventually going to become like the leader of the gods. And they were, let's see, we had the lady who takes care of Zeus. So that is Amalthea. Say Zeus's nanny. And for vocabulary, they're talking about some of these creatures. So I'm going to put the nymphs over here. And we also had this group called the Curetes. They were like the guards. I guess I don't want to put them in the gods and goddesses section. Let's see. Zeus grew up to be the strongest of all the gods and married Hera and married Metis, Titan's daughter. As thanks, Zeus gave the nymphs Amalthea's horn. He made it into a cornucopia, the horn of plenty, which never emptied of food, and he put Amalthea's image among the stars as Capricorn. So over here for vocabulary, cornucopia. All right, let's fix it. Love me some Google spelling. Rhea was still angry with her husband and wanted Zeus to dispose him. But Metis, the goddess of prudence, was wise. She said Zeus needed help, for Cronus had the Titans on his side. Rhea found a way. With her help, Metis gave Cronus a drink, and she promised him it would make him undefeatable. Instead, it made Cronus throw up the stone and all his unharmed children, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. They were reunited and gratefully joined their brother. Zeus freed their uncles from Tartarus, and together they prepared to fight the Titans. All right, so it sounds like there's a lot of conflict in this story between the gods and goddesses, and who's in charge and who wants to be in charge. And so I think as we keep on reading, we will learn more about these gods and goddesses. The Cyclops, who were great builders and smiths, made the weapons. They armed Zeus with a thunderbolt that shook the universe. They made Poseidon a trident that could split the seas. They gave Hades a helmet of darkness that made him invisible to his enemies. For 10 years, war raged between the old gods and the new gods. At last, Cronus and the Titans were defeated and thrown into Tartarus to be guarded forever by their 100 armed brothers. So on our chart, let's put some of his brothers and sisters down. So it was Hera. Get my list out so I can spell their names right. All right, so we had Hera. Have a capital. Hestia. Meter. Hades. And Poseidon. All right, so these are all Zeus's brothers and sisters. And let's see. We know that we can put kind of what some of their jobs. He is god of the sea. And does it tell us any of the other? Oh, god of Hades was god of the underworld. Right. And we had Tartarus. It's like a cavern where I guess where the gods and goddesses, where they put their enemies. Let's see, back to the story. Anything else? The trident might be a good one for vocabulary. Like a trident is a kind of like a big fork kind of thing, but it's like, I guess they would spear fish with it. Especially if he's the god of the sea. A helmet. Oh, the Cyclops were builders and smiths. We can put that on our chart. You know what smiths are? It would be a person who works with metal. Smiths. Workers who shape metal into tools or weapons. Right? Let's see. Mother Earth was finally at peace. Rule of the universe was divided among the three brothers. Zeus was declared king of the gods. So we'll add that to the chart. He was god of heaven and earth. Poseidon came god of the sea. We got that one. Hades was god of the underworld. We got that. And the Cyclopses built the victors a palace on Mount Olympus with 12 golden thrones inside. For Zeus shared his powers with his brothers and sisters, and 6 of his children, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love. And there the great Olympians lived forever. All right, so if I go back to my chart, let's see, we can add in, I'm running out of room here. Let's make this a little smaller. So I think I have one more little goddess to put in there. That was Aphrodite. It said she was the goddess of love. All right. So that's as far as we're going to read today. If you want to borrow this book, if you're a face-to-facer, or if you're more than welcome to read more about the gods and goddesses. The rest of the book kind of does each god in turn. So we have a page about Zeus. We have a page about Hera. We have a page about Hephaestus. We have a page about Aphrodite and Eros and Ares. Some of these names might sound familiar. We have a page about Poseidon, Athena. I think we talked about her a few lessons ago, how she sprang out of his head fully formed. Hermes, Artemis, Apollo, Hades, Demeter and Persephone, Dionysus, Hestia, and it has a chart of all the gods on their golden thrones up in Olympus. We could put a little bit more description about that. So that was built by the Titans. Built by the Titans, and it had 12 golden thrones. Space in there. So it was at the top of the mountain, and so it was a place where they could kind of live and gather when they weren't on Earth running rampant, making mischief. Greek mythology is so cool. Remember that since we'll be reading about ancient times, we'll be faced with some challenging vocabulary, even as a grown-up. I don't know how to pronounce all these names, so, we kind of have to muddle through it sometimes. If you know how to pronounce these, feel free to send me a little note or tell me, hey, this is how you pronounce that one. I will be glad to learn it. This is vocabulary that represents the culture and the time period. And when we're reading these, we're going to need to use context clues and the illustrations to make sense of this unfamiliar language. I'm really excited to learn more about Greek myths and gods and goddesses now that we kind of have their background story. Do you have a favorite myth? What part did you find most exciting today? If you want to leave that in a private comment, that would be great. No notebook lesson for this today. If you kind of took notes with me, that will do. If you did not take notes, that's okay too. I am not worried about that. I just want you to get excited about myths, and I have lots of myths in the classroom. Usually they're in collections, like you have like collections of myths. And I also have some little one pagers, so I'll put those out. So if you're a face to facer and you want some additional myths, I'll be glad to put those out where you can find them in the classroom. And then also, if you are an all remote student, I can send home a PDF with lots of the gods and goddesses stories. So if you would like to see that, I might post that in this lesson as well. All right, y'all have a good afternoon, and I will see you soon.